All right, this video covers retest review 13 over factoring round 2. The deadline to complete this retest review and take the retest is Thursday, March 1st. So problem 1, ask us to factor completely. When I look at problem 1 says a squared minus 144. If I am to factor this completely, I can see that because I only have two terms, my a squared and a number and no middle term, this is a difference of squares. To complete a difference of squares quickly, you can take the square root of both terms and ignore the negative for now. So the square root of a squared is a, and the square root of 144 is 12. To write your final answer, you make one positive and one negative. The reason being, this number times this number, if you have a positive and a negative, will get you to that negative 144. And a positive and a negative will cancel out that middle term, and a times a is a squared. So if you're looking at two terms, you can take the square root of both terms, make one positive and one negative. If you prefer to use the box, that is acceptable. Understand that some of these will get to some really big numbers and it's faster to take the square root of each, but you can use the box as well. Problem 2 is a very similar situation, 16x squared minus 25. So we have two numbers, an x squared and 25. So I will take the square root of both of those. So the square root of 16x squared is 4x. The square root of 25 is 5. Again, you can use the box to factor, but you're going to get a really big product for 16 times 25. So it's easier just to remember the square root rule. I make one positive and one negative. Okay, and note x was in front, so my term with the x, once I've taken the square root, the term with x is in front. 25 is in the back, so that stays in the back when I write my final answer. Problem 3 now has a middle term. However, I notice that the last term I can take the square root of because the square root of 81 is 9. And the middle term is 2 times 9, which is 18. This tells me it is a perfect square. And again, you can use the box to factor. This one's a little more normal if you use the box. You won't get gigantic numbers, so you can use the box and then pause here and see if you get the same thing. But the square root of 81 is not, excuse me. Because my middle term, excuse me, is negative, I will write x minus 9 squared. So my middle term is a negative, so it's x plus or minus, you follow the middle term. So you take the square root of the last number, that's what goes in the back, x goes in the front, and then the sign for what goes in the middle follows the middle, and the squared has to go on the outside. Again, you can use the box to factor, and you'll get the same thing. Problem 3 is very similar. I have a perfect square here. 144 is 12 times 12. And 12 times 2 is 24. So I take the square root of 144 and I get 12. My sign in the middle is positive, so it is x plus 12 squared. These problems I'm just asked to factor. The first thing I look for is a GCF in every single problem. So problem 5, 2, 8, and 10 are all even, so I can take a 2 out of all of these. They also all share an a, which means I can take out an a as well. My GCF goes in front and I divide. 2 divided by 2 cancels. A to the 3 minus 1 is a squared. 8 divided by 2 is 4. A to the 2 minus 1 is 1. Negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5, and my a's cancel. I now take what's in parentheses, which is what's left over, after I take out my GCF, and use the box to factor. I only use the box after I've taken out a GCF. In my box, I put my first term and my last term, so a squared minus 5. And I multiply those for my product. So my product is negative 5a squared. My sum is always the middle term. That does not come anywhere from my box and is the middle term, so 4a. So I am looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 5 and add up to 4. In my calculator, I use y equals to put the product into y equals. So I go to my calculator. My product is negative 5. So I put negative 5 divided by x. For this problem and for all problems, it doesn't matter what letter you have. X is the only one that the calculator recognizes. So I go to my table. I have put the product. Now I am searching for the sum. My sum is a positive 4. Remember that you only look at whole numbers. So 1 minus 5 gave me a negative 4. I skipped over these because they're all decimals. 5 minus 1 would add up to 4. So I have 5 and minus 1. The order in which you put these in your box does not matter as long as you put both of them in your box with the signs straight from the calculator. From here, I take out the GCF, so I'm just looking at these two boxes for right now. A squared and 5a share an a. They do not share any letters. Then I just look at these boxes. Negative 1a and negative 5 share a negative 1. The sign follows whatever your factor is, so whatever I got from the calculator. Then I look at the top row. So a squared minus a shares an a. And then I look at the bottom row. 5a and minus 5 share a 5. To do a quick check, this times this better be that. And top times side better be that. So a times a is a squared. Negative 1 times 5 is negative 5. So my total answer is my GCF of 2a, my factor, and my factor. And these come from the top and the sides. Problem 6, 5b squared minus 30b plus 40. First thing I do is look for a GCF. All of these are divisible by 5 because they all end in a 5 or a 0, so I take out a 5. I have a v squared minus 6v plus 8. Now I take what's in my parentheses and go straight to the box. V squared and positive 8. I multiply those for my product of 8v squared. My sum is the number in the middle, negative 6v. In my calculator, I put the product 8 divided by x into y equals. So put the product. I go to my table and search for the sum. My sum is a negative 6, and I can immediately notice that I have positives and positives. There's no way they will add to a negative. So I go up to my negatives. Negative 1 plus negative 8 is negative 9. Negative 2 plus negative 4 is negative 6. So I put those two pieces exactly like I got them in the calculator and put them in my box, negative 2v and negative 4v. So again, I look at this side and I say, what do v squared and negative 4v share? They share a v. Then I look at the right side. Negative 2v and 8 share a negative 2. Then I look at the top row. V squared and 2v share a v. And the bottom row, negative 4v and positive 8 share a negative 4. I do my quick check. V times v is v squared. Negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. So my full answer is the GCF I took out, my top factor, and my bottom factor. Again, top and bottom or side, it does not matter the order as long as you write them exactly like you see them. Problem 7, 9x squared minus 9x plus 2. The first thing I look for is a GCF. 9 is 3 and 3, 9 is 3 and 3, 2 is prime and can only take out a 2. But because I cannot take a 2 out of 9 nicely, I can't take out a GCF. So I go straight to my box. So 9x squared and a positive 2 multiply for my product of 18x squared. My sum is negative 9x. So in the calculator, I put the product 18 divided by x into my calculator. I search for two numbers that will that will add to 9. And I'm only looking at whole numbers. 3 plus 6 will give me 9. I need a negative 9, excuse me. So I need to look in the negatives. Negative 3 and negative 6 will give me negative 9. So negative 3 and negative 6. I look in the left row. 9x squared and negative 3x. 9 and 3 share a 3. They also share an x because they have the same letter. Negative 6x and 2 on that right side. Negative 6 and 2 both share a 2. They do not share an x because 2 does not have an x. On the top row, 9x squared minus 6x. Excuse me. They are both divisible by 3, and they also share an x. And then the bottom row, negative 3x and positive 2 do not share anything, so we write a universal 1, and my sign is negative because it follows with the two factors I got out of the calculator. Quick check, 3x and 3x multiply for 9x, 1 and negative 1 and negative 2 multiply to a positive 2. So my answer has no GCF in front, and it's just my two factors from the top and the side. Problem 8, 3, 14, and 5 do not share any like terms, so there is no GCF. 3x squared and minus 5 go into my box. I multiply them for my product, so my product is negative 15x squared. My sum is 14x. So in the calculator, I put my product divided by x. So negative 15 divided by x. And I search for positive 14. So right here, negative 1 plus 15 would give me a positive 14. So negative 1 and positive 15 gave me that positive 14. Look in the left column, 3x squared and negative 1x share an x only. They do not share any numbers. 15 and negative 5 share a 5. On the top, 3x squared and 15x, 3 and 15 share 3. They both have x's. And on the bottom, negative 1x and negative 5 share a 1. That is negative because my red factor is negative. I do my quick check. 3x times x is 3x squared. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. So my factors are x plus 5 and 3x minus 1. Problem 9, 4x squared, 10x, and 6 are all divisible by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 6 divided by 2 is 3. I put 2x squared plus 5x plus 3 into my box. and multiply them for my product of 6x squared. My sum is 5x. When I put my product into the calculator, excuse me, I find that 2 and 3, oh my goodness, sorry. 2 and 3 multiply to 6 and add to 5. So 2 and 3. When I look at my GCFs, 2 and 3 do not share anything. They just share x's. Again, 2 and 3 do not share anything. They don't even share an x this time, so we just put a 1. 2x squared and 2x share a 2 and an x. 3x and 3 share a 3. So my factors are x plus 1 and 2x plus 3. Oh, and my GCF in front. Problem 10, 15, 12, and 3 are all divisible by 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 3 divided by 3 is 1. What's in parentheses goes in my box. So my product is a negative 5x squared. My sum is a negative 4x. Two numbers that will do that are negative 5 and positive 1. Negative 5 times 1 is negative 5. Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. Look at my GCFs. 5x squared and 1x share an x. Negative 5x and negative 1 share a negative 1. 5x squared and negative 5x share a 5x. 1x and negative 1 share a 1. So my answer is my GCF, x minus 1, 5x plus 1. Remember to show this retest review to your teacher and to set up a time to take your retest.